Hello, everybody. So my hiring process was extensive and diverse. I went through series of interviews with the candidates that were on my list. My list was based on many years of experience in our league and knowing the team personnel personally. Besides knowing Mark for years, I know he has a respect for his peers, and he worked extremely hard to get where he is today. He has tremendous work ethic, and the combination of his eye for talent and ability to connect with players and coaches made him a primary candidate for us. His connection to grassroots programs stemming from his days at Nike was important as well. So I wanted to just share with you the story from April 26th when we hired Mark. So after a long process of series of interviews and background calls, we settled on Mark. Michael, then JJ Polk and Pat Conley got a chance to interview him as well. So after I hung up with Michael and agreeing that I will call him on Monday morning, I was watching The Last Dance, third and fourth episode. I was so emotional watching it that I was thinking, why do I have to wait until Monday? Let me check if he's up. So he responds that he did not get a chance to watch it live. And now they're replaying it again on ESPN. So he's on his couch watching it. It's late, it's around 1 a.m. Eastern time. So I'm doing the same. But now I'm calling him to offer the job while The Last Dance is in the background. So anyway, I thought it was a great moment for me, for Mark, for organization, when we agreed on a deal to make him general manager of the Chicago Bulls while watching that documentary. Talking to him through this process, I liked his vision on structure and what is important for the organization. I will use a lot of his ideas. In many ways, his values are close to mine. We value inclusion of staff. We will challenge our staff. We will implement transparency, communication, functionality. And finally, Mark's relationship with players and coaches will play a key role. At the end of the day, we're both basketball junkies, and we're looking forward to this opportunity to turn the Bulls organization around. So I just want to thank you for your attention, and we'll pass the mic to Mark.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Arturas. Thanks to everyone for joining today. I hope you're safe and healthy during these unprecedented times. I know this situation is especially challenging for the city of Chicago. My family and I send our best wishes and gratitude to the frontline workers. I am thrilled to join the Chicago Bulls family. Becoming a GM in the NBA is a dream come true, and to be in a leadership position with Arturas for this iconic franchise is an opportunity of a lifetime. We both come from successful programs, and we are going to establish a culture of winning in Chicago. Today's a dream come true for me. I would like to thank Michael Reinsdorf, the Reinsdorf family, and the entire Chicago Bulls organization for this incredible opportunity. Thank you, Arturas. It is a privilege to work with you, and I look forward to your partnership as we enter a new era of Bulls basketball together. To my friends and family in Canada, we've come a long way as a basketball country. Thank you for your outpouring of congratulations this week. I appreciate your support. Everything starts and ends with winning. We need to focus our culture and mindset to be about excellence day in and day out. I'm so excited to start this chapter. So Bulls fans, hear me when I say our ultimate goal is to bring an NBA championship back to the city of Chicago.
All right. Thank you, Arturas and Mark. We'll now open this up to questions. First one here, Casey Johnson with NBC Sports Chicago.
This is Casey Johnson with NBC Sports Chicago. Mark, welcome to Chicago whenever you do get here. And my question is, obviously, Arturas referenced your pre-existing relationship, but he also mentioned that he didn't want to hire a clone. In what ways do you think you will complement Arturas, and in what ways do you think you might challenge Arturas?
Going through the hiring process, for me, getting to know Arturas and everything that he was about, we definitely, like he said, we're basketball junkies. We love being in the gym. We love evaluating talent. We love growing teams. I think my relationships is obviously something that I think I complement him well with. Again, my days at Nike and working for the teams that I've worked with, I think they're going to be a great complement to him and our staff, moving forward. In the teams that I've been with prior, we've always fostered healthy debate and communication. And, after talking to Arturas, that's something that he welcomes. As long as you do it in a respectful way, I think, you can do great things.
All right.
Thank you.
Our next question here comes from Eric Woodyard with ESPN.com.
Hey, what's up, Mark? How you doing, man?
Good, brother. How you doing?
Pretty good. Congratulations, man. And I know it's still early within the process, but had you had a chance to, talk to Coach Boylan and kind of, figure out the process with that at all? I know it's still early for you, but had you had a chance to talk to him at all?
To your point, it is really early. Coach and I did have a conversation earlier in the week where he called to congratulate me on accepting the position. Just like anything else in our staff, we are going to utilize, our time to evaluate everybody on staff, not only players, coaches, but also people in the front office as well. So, I've spoken to Coach. We had a really great conversation, and I'm looking forward to spending time with him in Chicago when we're afforded that opportunity.
Okay, our next question comes from Joe Cowley with the Chicago Sun-Times.
Mark, how you doing? Congratulations, Joe Colley from the Sun-Times.
Thank you.
Real quick, I mean, you brought up the Nike background, and that's been referenced a lot. And I just know, just from dealing with Nike guys, that's a grind, that's a hustle. How important was that time for you as far as building relationships with guys, building relationships with their camps, their family, agents, all that kind of stuff?
Simply put, it was critical. I'm still extremely close to a lot of the guys at Nike today. That really taught me, the true value of connecting the dots is what we used to say is, relationships move the needle in this business, and it really starts at the grassroots. And, I was fortunate enough to work at Nike at a time when, LeBron James and players like that were coming up through the system. And, it really taught me the value of relationships, and again, it taught me the value of a brand, really. Nike's one of the most powerful brands in the world. And, to Arturas's story from, last Saturday night, back then the Bulls were one of the strongest brands in the NBA. And it's my hope that I can take some of the lessons that I've learned at Nike and implement them here with Chicago as a goal to get the Chicago Bulls back to relevancy and get that brand back to where it's cool again and kids want to be part of it. That's one of my goals for sure.
Our next question comes from Mike McGraw with the Daily Herald here in Chicago.
Yeah, hi, Mark. This is Mike McGraw, Daily Herald. Wanted to just want to ask you. You talked about establishing a winning culture, how important that is. What do you think is the process of going about that? Obviously, starting to win is the one way to do it, but with a really young team that's really low on veterans and low in winning experience like the Bulls have right now, how do you go about building a winning culture?
Sure. One of my mottos is players first. I think you have to create a players first mentality. And I agree with you. We were the second youngest team in the NBA last year. And I really believe it starts with a foundation of player development. Through player development, that's really when we can see what kind of players we have on our roster. I was surprised to find that, there was one player development coach on the staff. As I was doing my research for this job, that's a hell of a job for one person to take on. It's going to be one of my tenets to try and figure out our player development system. You know, there's a lot of key areas within it, you know, skill development, physical development, mental enhancement. But with that, you need to hire people to help support that. So we're going to do, you know, a pretty diligent job in terms of looking for, you know, the proper staff to bring in here to work with our young guys. But player development is going to be a tremendous focus for this organization moving forward.
Next question here comes from Jamal Collier with the Chicago Tribune.
Hey, Mark. Jamal Collier from the Chicago Tribune. He said, congratulations.
Thank you.
It's actually a question for both you and Arturas, if you can answer it. We haven't talked to you guys a lot about this roster, and I'm just kind of wondering what your impressions of the players and the guys on this roster. I know it's still early as you're evaluating, but it's just a process that a roster that you see is a few tweaks away from kind of what you want, or you think this is sort of a major undertaking here? Just kind of what was your initial impressions of what you have on the roster now?
AK, you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. I'm excited about the young core that is in place here. You know, that will not happen, obviously, to get to know them until we have an opportunity to practice and hopefully play together. I'm not in a rush to make, you know, changes or any, you know, opinions on certain players. I look forward to giving the players an opportunity to show what they can do. I've gotten, you know, I had numerous conversations with players, and we've gotten Zoom calls. So it's, you know, it's going to take a while till we, you know, until we get to some level of normalcy. And I do not know what that looks like yet. So I will not be able to fully assess the current situation as it is.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Next question comes from Darnell Mayberry with The Athletic here in Chicago.
Hi, and thanks for everyone involved for doing this. My question is for you, Mark. Congratulations on the job. What does it mean to you to be the first Black GM in Bulls history? And I wouldn't mind speaking to that too, please, when he's finished.
Sorry. It means a lot. You know, I take pride in that. I think it's a tremendous responsibility. You know, I am a Black man. You know, I'm in a leadership position now in a city with so many Black youths. You know, I see this as a great opportunity. I think being visible is going to be important. I think being invested is going to be important. I think this position with the Bulls provides me with resources to help drive some change. You know, we can all do better. I intend to do more, and I welcome those types of opportunities to become a role model for a lot of the young youth, both boys and girls, in the city.
Thank you, Mark. And Arturas, just as the follow-up, I would like, it was reported early in April that you were seeking a Black general manager. Why was that important to you, and what ultimately made you feel confident that Mark was the right person?
Well, it's our responsibility, you know, falls on our shoulders to seek diversity and divergence, you know, through a hiring process. So I thought the list that I put together was really good, and you know, I took time in interviewing them all, and you know, the luxury that I have is many years being in our league and league office, and being around the personnel to get to know them personally. So, I mean, it was a great experience for me, and I'm so glad we settled on Mark.
All right, we got Casey Johnson again with with NBC Sports Chicago here.
Thanks, Matt. This is for Arturas. Arturas, how do you guys envision maybe handling the division of labor, both maybe internally and externally? Obviously, you guys both have well-versed relationships throughout the league. I mean, do you kind of view your role as kind of the main philosophical overseer while Mark deals with agents and trade negotiations, or is it something that will evolve? And then also externally, like, who's going to deal with us clowns? Like, will it be a shared responsibility? Will you be the point person for media? Will Mark be the point person for media? I'm just kind of curious how you envision that playing out.
Well, I think with you clowns, like you said, you know, both of us will deal with you. I mean, I like this vision, and you know, a lot of his ideas come from the way we're going to structure a lot of internal processes. The luxury that we have with the current hires is that we coming from a lot of different programs, and we can take the best scouting practices and how we look at evaluating players. How we're looking at player development. We're coming from a lot of different teams. So that's a luxury, I think, to bring the best practices in place, and we can implement that. We can build that. So I think we're going to share our responsibilities. We're going to, hear each other out and make a decision, at the end of the day. And, in terms of dealing with media, I think it's going to be a lot of times me, a lot of times him. I think we're going to share that responsibility as well. So I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you.
Our next question here comes from Michael Grange with Sportsnet in Toronto.
Hello, Arturas. Hello, Evs. How are you?
Good, Mike. How you doing?
Great.
Excellent. I'm excellent. Mark, a couple of questions, not surprisingly relating to your roots here in Toronto. One would be, that time when you got hired by Brian Colangelo, his role as a mentor to you, your time in that front office alongside Messiah Ujiri, and the success you guys had initially out of the gate. What did you kind of learn in those early years in a front office, and how has it influenced you, both of those guys, Brian and Messiah?
I owe both of those guys a tremendous amount of gratitude. First, Brian is the guy who actually took a chance on me. When I first went to Toronto, he really taught me what the NBA is all about. He taught me about, the rhythm and the flow of what an NBA season looks like, what the playoffs look like. Messiah's been like a brother to me. He's clearly one of the sharpest, executives in all of sports right now. He really introduced me to the art of scouting and how to truly evaluate talent, and I owe him for that. My time in Toronto was unbelievable. Here's the kid who was 3,000 miles away from home and got an opportunity to come home and work for his hometown club. And, Brian gave me that opportunity, and I'm forever indebted to him for that. So my time is, go ahead.
Sorry, maybe something about Brian, that you've carried on with you in your career. You've worked with him twice.
I'd probably have to say professionalism. I pride myself on how I carry myself. I pride myself on how I approach people. I pride myself on being, practicing humility. It's those types of things, those types of values that he instilled in me early in my career, and they've stayed with me. He's had a tremendous impact on my career to date, and, I thank him for that.
And Matt, if I could ask one more follow-up, I apologize. Mark, your role as a Canadian general manager, you're the first Canadian raised general manager in the NBA, and your time with Canada basketball in Canada, going back to not only as a player but time with Steve Nash, time with Vince Carter. Maybe just some comment on this as a next evolution in where the sport has, the industry of basketball maybe has gotten to in Canada.
It's interesting because when I was at Nike Canada running sports marketing for all their properties, basketball was kind of, an up and coming thing. It was kind of gimmicky, but we were committed to pounding the rock per se and really trying to grow the game of basketball. Steve Nash was obviously a huge part of that. Building relationship with him through the Federation Canada Basketball was critical to my penetration into the U.S. market. At the time when I was working with Nike and working with the Toronto Raptors, that's when I got to meet Vince, and he and I became very close. I stood up for him at his wedding, godfather to his daughter, and those are the types of things that relationships can do for you, can help move the needle. I remain very close with Vince today, and you could ultimately say that Vince changed basketball in Toronto because when Vince was really being Vince, you know, they were the #1 draw on the road, the Raptors were, and that's when kids in Canada really started to see, you know, that basketball could be cool. And I think you're starting to see the benefits of that now with the number of Canadians who are playing in the NBA. And I think you can mirror all that back to when Steve was doing what Steve was doing and when Vince was doing what he was doing when he was up in Canada, in Toronto.
Thanks very much, and big congratulations, Mark. Well done.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, we've got Joe Cowley again with the Chicago Sun-Times.
Yeah, how you doing? This question is for both you guys. Mark, you brought up the Jim Boylan situation that you wanted to, you know, let some dust settle and get to Chicago. And what is it solely going to fall on you to make that decision? Is it both you and Arturas that are going to make that decision? And, you know, I think most people are wondering why not just come in and say, okay, new regime, new day of basketball, so we're going to bring in a coach that, you know, we handpick and a coach that we're comfortable with. No offense to Jim and the job he did, but that's the direction we're going to go.
Again, you know, I think we owe it to everybody on staff to get to Chicago and meet them face to face. I think we owe it to our players to hopefully get to evaluate them in practice settings, playing settings, you know, and we owe it to our staff to see them in those types of settings as well. I just think it's far too early to make any of those types of decisions with respect to anybody on the staff, you know, until we get to Chicago.
And then will that be a joint decision, or does it fall just on you, Mark?
That will ultimately be a joint decision. You know, AK, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I mean, you know, my initial impression of Jim is that he cares a great deal about this team and that he is an anxious as everyone else to get back in the gym. You know, my first priority was to hire Mark, JJ Polk, and Pat Conley in order to implement my vision, our vision, to create sustainable program that can be good for, you know, a very long time. How do you do that? Well, the first, we're changing some of the scouting practices and how we look at evaluating players. Second, we are focused on a player development department and putting a plan in place to implement needed adjustments. I have not been in the building yet, so I'm looking forward to that. You know, going back to coaching, we've had a chance to meet a couple times over Zoom, but it's not only been 2 weeks. You know, it's just like I said before, I'm going to do my comprehensive evaluation of every department and ensure I give that process the time it deserves. You know, as well, and you know, we are limited right now with what we can do. You know, instead of being in practice facility and being in Chicago, we're at home doing video and audio calls like this one. So it makes it difficult. So until we get to some level of normalcy, and again, I do not know what that looks like, we will not be able to fully assess the current situation. So.
Next question comes from Eric Woodyard again with ESPN.com.
Hey, what's up, Arturas? This one for you this time. You spent a lot of talk about reopening facilities and things like that, and you know, what have you guys started to develop a plan? I know Illinois still has a stay-at-home order, but you know, reopening facilities and stuff like that. What's your thoughts on that? And if a season does resume, what do you hope to get out of it at this point?
Well, we're waiting for a lot of direction from the league in case you know, the local government lifts the stay-at-home policy, or we're going to be ready to do it. We're going to come up with a process to open our facilities, but again, everything else is going to look like it's going to be only voluntary for now, until league will come out with you know, additional information how we're moving forward. So it's again fluid situation. In case we will be able to do it, we're going to be ready in our facilities, because we do believe that our practice facility is the safest environment for our players. But again, at this time, you know, we're gonna wait and see what the next information is gonna come.
Next question comes from Cody Westerland with 670thescore.com.
Hi, this is Cody with 670 The Score. This is for Mark. What type of basketball do you believe in stylistically when it comes to offense and when it comes to defense on the floor, how you play stylistically?
Sure. I like teams that play fast. I like teams that share the ball. I put a heavy emphasis on basketball IQ. Simply put, we want players who play the right way, play for each other. We want winners on the court at all times. That's something that's not going to be easily done or done overnight. I think it's going to be a process. It's going to take some time. And then defensively, I like players who are versatile. I like players who can switch multiple positions. I believe in rim protection. I think you have to protect your rim, and that's not necessarily blocking shots. I believe in good positional sound defense. And we want kids who are going to play hard and compete. I think there's an element of toughness that, I would love to see us, really focus in on as we build out this roster. But those are just some of the types of things that I'd love to see, Bulls basketball evolve to.
Next question here comes from Cheryl Ray Stout with WBEZ Radio here in Chicago.
The Bulls before you took this job, and did you consult anybody like an Adrian Griffin, because he was a coach here, the player here, and may have some ideas about this team?
Cheryl, I don't think we got the first part of the question. Do you mind repeating it, please?
Yes. Mark, what was your perception of the Bulls before you took this job? How did you research this team, and what did you think about it before you took this job?
I certainly did my research on the team. Obviously, winning 22 games this year is not ideally where you want to be. I do think, I'm going to be committed to, I was committed to my role with the Sixers. So I didn't, study them that intently. But when I did, I noticed that, they're not necessarily a strong rebounding team. I don't think they shot it particularly well this year, but I do think there's areas of improvement, and we're committed to turning this program around. With respect to any other, coaching and all that kind of stuff, again, it's really about, getting to Chicago and doing a deep dive on all of the departments, including coaching staff, and really figuring out what the needs are and addressing them, and then putting a plan in place against all of those needs.